In this video, we're going to be looking at various Kickstarters that revolve around the Super Nintendo and ranking them out of 5 stars. We're going to be doing this in the order of release. So first off, Super 4-in-1 Multicart for SNES. So this Kickstarter is to make a cartridge for 4 fan-made Super Nintendo games. These games were playable on emulator and flashcards, but never had a physical release. This Kickstarter raised $15,050 of their $10,500 goal. So this Kickstarter kickstarted the site Pico Interactive. And Pico Interactive is now a pretty huge company that has a ton of new retro games for a bunch of old systems. This Kickstarter went incredibly smooth. The only sort of hiccup this Kickstarter had was with its partnership with Hyperkin. One of the main reasons why this Kickstarter was funded in the first place was because of one of its rewards. For $100, you get a Retron 4 console and the Multicart game. The Retron 4 was delayed many times and even turned into the Retron 5. So some people got their consoles and game 11 months later, but I'd put that completely on Hyperkin. And 11 months isn't that bad of a wait for a Kickstarter. Everybody who got the game and not the console got it right on time for their delivery window. Overall, I gotta give this a 5 out of 5. The fact that this Kickstarter created Pico Interactive is incredibly cool, and I think Pico Interactive is just overall a really great company. Beyond Mode 7, an SNES comic anthology.
Beyond Mode 7, a book of comics and illustrations all about the Super Nintendo.
If you couldn't already tell, the Super Nintendo has influenced us greatly as creators. We know this is also true for an entire generation of artists.
So we asked a whole bunch of those artists to reach back into their childhoods and show us what the Super Nintendo meant to them. And they pulled through. In fact, we have over 70 pages of content.
Now, what does that mean for you? It means the book is already finished, but we need your help to get it printed. Your contribution will make this book a reality.
So overall, this was just a pretty solid Kickstarter. It seemed like the artwork was really high quality. They even had some personalized exclusive sketches for pretty reasonable prices. So overall, this Kickstarter raised $5,116 of their $3,000 goal. This just seems like it was a great Kickstarter, so I gotta give it 5 out of 5 stars. New NES and SNES game, Sydney Hunter and the Caverns of Death.
Where we stand with this game currently in development, the graphics and sprites have all been created, the level designs have all been done, we have a programmer in place, the music, audio is all complete, and even programming, we're about halfway done with the programming, so we're pretty far along, but we need your help finishing this game. And because of that, we've decided to do a Kickstarter. The goal for the Kickstarter is to raise $10,000. And then what that will do, that will enable us to release this game on time. And our goal to release this game is by early first quarter of next year, 2016. So we're looking January of 2016. So that will just put us in a financial ability to release the game on time. We also plan on releasing this game in various region formats. So we're going to release the NTSC Super Nintendo style game, or we'll have a PAL version, we'll even have a Super Famicom version of the game available. So depending on what version you want or what to order, you can certainly order that. We also have some really cool stretch goals available. We reach these stretch goals to port Sydney Hunter and the Caverns of Death to other platforms, including the Nintendo Entertainment System.
The Kickstarter raised $39,252 of their $10,000 goal. There were many delays in this Kickstarter. The game was supposed to release in the first quarter of 2016, but they ended up shipping this game March 8th, 2018. The thing is though, they shipped the Super Nintendo version and the PAL release of the Super Nintendo version. They did not ship the Super Famicom version or the NES version. And the Super Famicom version and the NES version still haven't been shipped out yet. So it's been over 7 years past the deadline for those versions. They have been doing constant updates about this though, and it seems like they are really trying to get these games out, but a 7-year wait is almost unacceptable. So I did the math, and out of the 406 people that pledged, 303 got everything that they were promised, and 103 people are still waiting on something or even everything. So 75% of the backers are happy because they got everything they wanted, but I could see 25% of the people being a little bit peeved off because they've been waiting for 7 years. I'm gonna have to give this one 2.5 stars out of 5. This next project actually has 3 Kickstarters to go with it. And the first one is the complete SNES Collector's Book and Ultimate Guide.
The complete SNES is a comprehensive Super Nintendo collector's guide. To my knowledge, this is the first time a Super Nintendo book has become available on this big of a scale. We're going to go and expand the book right off the get-go to include PAL exclusives, unreleased games, as well as some Super Nintendo homebrews. There's a second book associated with the project. That one's called the Super Nintendo Compendium. It's going to allow for more expanded reviews, personal stories, all-out awesomeness. The formatting is going to be graphically amazing looking.
This Kickstarter was looking for $5,000 and ended up raising $33,799. And this Kickstarter was incredibly efficient. All the books were shipped within the shipping window, and overall just a super straightforward Kickstarter. Their next Kickstarter was a second edition, or definitive edition of this book. This new version is now over 600 pages, it has over 300 selected Super Famicom games, and it has a bunch of just overall improvements. So this Kickstarter had a goal of $10,000 and ended up raising $17,398. This Kickstarter didn't go as smooth as the first one. There was some shipping issues. The books were coming off the spine when they were shipped. This wasn't the creator Jeffrey's fault though, this was the production company's fault. And he made a really great effort to ensure everybody's books were fixed or replaced. So overall, this was another successful Kickstarter. The next Kickstarter he made was Complete SNES, Pocketbook, and 3 new Super Nintendo games.
The Pocket Edition of the Complete SNES. The idea with my original book series of the Complete NES was to be able to fit it in your pocket, take it with you to conventions. Obviously, things got crazy, these books got huge, I'm sitting here struggling when I'm trying to carry it. You can see the difference in size between the pocket guides and the hardcover giant books. The other part of this Kickstarter is the Super Nintendo aftermarket games from a bunch of people that I know within the community, because this community is tight-knit and really cool. And these 3 games right here, Little Medusa, Sydney Hunter, and Socks the Cat, are all brand new Super Nintendo games released. For those that support the campaign, we get a limited version. None of these box arts are 100% solid, but I figure it's a really cool way to help, promote Super Nintendo aftermarket games.
This Kickstarter raised $9,249 of its $4,000 goal. And in the end, everything went according to plan for this Kickstarter. They actually shipped before the estimated delivery, which never happens with Kickstarters. And the Pocket Edition is only $10 now also. Art is subjective, so feel free to disagree with me here, but if we compare this book to Pat Contry's Super Nintendo book, I'm not the biggest fan of the art direction in this book. I will give credit to the Pocket Edition though, I think the cover looks a lot better in it. So I gotta give this one 4.5 stars out of 5. BitLounger, SNES Cartridge Organizer.
For far too long, video game collectors have resorted to cheap trays. These games deserve so much better. With that in mind, we introduce the BitLounger 16-bit SN, the world's highest quality storage solution for Super Nintendo game collectors and enthusiasts. Featuring 1/8-inch reinforced opaque high-gloss acrylic, our case provides the definitive solution for safe and stylish Super Nintendo game storage. Rubber feet protect the bottom of the acrylic from scratching, and slot notches are precision crafted to ensure proper fit for up to 10 of your favorite Super Nintendo games. While we have many designs lined up that support other systems, the recent 25th birthday of the Super Nintendo was the perfect opportunity to pay homage to one of history's most beloved game consoles. We have already made it through the design and prototype phase, a great supplier is lined up and ready, and freight forwarding is already confirmed pending mass production. We just need your support to place our mass production order. Once we reach our funding goal, we can not only get our order placed for the 16-bit SN, but move forward with other designs.
This Kickstarter's goal was $500 and it raised $1,161. Since they hit their $1,000 stretch goal, they're able to offer it in white or black now. So this project also started the whole BitLounger site, and they have a bunch of products now. These trays have been around for a while, so this tray has a lot of competition. Although this case may be high quality acrylic, if you compare it to other trays on the market, you can get trays a lot cheaper. To be fair to the BitLounger though, this tray did come out in November 2016, so this might have been the best option at the time. Overall, I gotta give this one 3.5 stars out of 5. Socks the Cat, the SNES video game based on Clinton's cat. So this isn't a joke. In 1993, there was going to be an SNES game and Genesis game about Socks the Cat. When this game was originally made in the 90s, Socks the Cat license was not owned by the Clintons. It was owned by the Presidential Sox Partnership. Kaneko, the company that was going to publish Socks the Cat, purchased the license. When they purchased the license, they had the agreement that some of the profits would go to the Humane Society and the Children's Defense Fund, which was one of Hillary Clinton's favorite charities. The game was ultimately cancelled though by the closure of Kaneko's US division. A prototype cartridge was sold to a video game collector, Jason Wilson. In 2012, Wilson sold the game to collector Tom Curtin. When Curtin obtained this game, he also acquired the rights to the Sock the Cat's trademark. Tom Curtin partnered with the company Second Dimension to release the game, and that leads us to the Kickstarter today. The game was close to a finished state, but had a bunch of bugs, so this Kickstarter's goal was to fix all the bugs too, and to finish the game. This Kickstarter's goal was $30,000 and ended up raising $33,148. So for the release schedule, it was a little bit late, but it seems like almost everybody got their copy of Socks the Cat within a year. Saying that though, there were some people that were upset by this Kickstarter. There was a promise for a PAL version of the game, and by default, if you lived in a PAL territory, you would be shipped the PAL version. This was not the case though. A PAL version of this game was never released, so everybody just got an NTSC version, no matter what region you were in. So I understand why people are upset when they get shipped a game that they can't even play in their own console. So in the end, I gotta give this one a 3 out of 5. Blow 'em Out, new SNES game and new SNES cartridges. So a company called Retroscribe had a website where they were releasing NES homebrew and NES cartridge shells. Well, this Kickstarter was for two things. One was to add SNES shells to their website, and since they already made NES shells on their site, making SNES shells should have been fairly easy for them compared to other people. And the other thing was the homebrew game Blow 'em Out. They already released this game for NES and Sega Genesis, so this just would have been a different version of the game for Super Nintendo. The Kickstarter goal was $30,000, but they ended up raising only $1,759. The Retroscribe site went down around October 2017, and at this time, all the homebrew games that Retroscribe made, the rights were sold to Second Dimension. Blow 'em Out did come out for the Super Nintendo though on January 31st, 2021, released by Second Dimension. So for this one specifically, if their Kickstarter would have been funded, Retroscribe would probably still be around today. I think part of the reason why this Kickstarter failed was because this Kickstarter only has one image. There's no trailer at all, and I think if they would have put more time into a trailer, this could have ended up being funded. Overall, I gotta give this Kickstarter 3 out of 5 stars. Unholy Night, SNES fighting game console cartridge, unreleased. So this was a brand new fighting game to be released for the Super Nintendo, and the developers on this game are really impressive. A lot of the people on the team formerly worked for SNK. So with this Kickstarter, the game was already fully done. The reason why they had the Kickstarter though is because they needed an initial product run of at least 1,500 cartridges. And I gotta say, the rewards on this one specifically are actually really good. For $40, you can get a physical copy of the game with a third-party SNES controller. So in the end, Unholy Night's goal is $52,500, but they only raised $23,072. In Japan, this game was published by Blaze Pro. In North America and Europe, Retroism actually picked up the game and published it. This game got pretty bad reviews overall.
Unfortunately, all this game really has going for it is the novelty of having a brand new Super Nintendo game made today. This game looks, sounds, and feels like a bad Sega Saturn port. The resolution here is tiny. I mean, geez, even Star Fox had more screen real estate than this. The sprites look good on their own, but in motion they're choppy as hell. Overall, the game is so slow. It's like they crammed as much as they possibly could onto a Super Nintendo cartridge, but they had no idea how to optimize the game properly for the hardware.
Because this game was made by previous SNK developers, people were expecting quality close to those games. But the quality of this game just didn't really compare. Nowadays, though, you can buy this game for $20 off Amazon. And for $20, I think this game is probably worth that to get a brand new SNES game in box with the manual. So for this one, I'm going to give it 2.5 stars out of 5. SNES Super Famicom, a visual compendium. This is a book that pays tribute to the pixel art, product design and graphic design associated with the Super Nintendo. This Kickstarter had a goal of £25,000 and ended up raising £224,813. So overall, this was just an incredibly successful Kickstarter. They hit every single one of their stretch goals, so a bunch of extra pages were added to the book, and even an interactive PDF version was made. And when this book was released, it got really great reviews, so overall this was just a fantastic Kickstarter, and I gotta give it 5 out of 5 stars. The next Kickstarter is Super Nintendo Library Guidebook of all 800 SNES games. So this is a Kickstarter made by Pat Contry. And for those of you that don't know, Pat Contry runs a pretty successful YouTube channel that hosts the CUP podcast. He's also well known for his appearance in Angry Video Game Nerd episode. So this book is like an encyclopedia that contains full descriptions and reviews of all the Super Nintendo games. This Kickstarter's goal was $15,000 and ended up raising $133,147. This book got fantastic reviews and was released on time, and in my opinion, I think this book just looks amazing. So overall, I gotta give this one 5 out of 5 stars. Super Nintendo Anthology, The Ultimate Book. So this is another Kickstarter that has to do with a book, but this one has a hardware book and a software book. So the hardware book goes over the machine itself, while the software book goes over the games. This Kickstarter had a goal of €40,000 and ended up raising $95,632. In the end, just another great Kickstarter here. I gotta give this one 5 out of 5 stars. Retro Game Builder. Create SNES games visually.
This is a software tool that lets you make games for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System without writing code. Once you've created your game on the PC, you can save it onto a cartridge that plays on real console hardware. Today we have visual programming languages like Blueprints for Unreal Engine or Bolt for Unity, which let users create games graphically instead of writing code. And I got to thinking that something similar could be made for the Super Nintendo. I could finally make the games I always wanted, and better yet, I could share the tool with others so that anyone could turn their game ideas into reality. I decided to call it Retro Game Builder. Retro Game Builder lets you create assets and game logic with an intuitive graphical interface. You can easily test your game in an emulator, and when you're done, you can save to a rewritable cartridge with the click of a button. I've designed a cartridge programmer that integrates with the software, and I've teamed up with a skilled electrical engineer to produce the cartridges themselves. If you've ever wanted to create original games for the Super NES, I hope you consider making a pledge today.
This Kickstarter had a goal of $68,000. This Kickstarter was cancelled early though, only 6 days after its initial release, and ended up raising $8,780. The creator said it had no reasonable chance of being funded, so that's why it was cancelled early. The creator kept working on this project though, but it was officially cancelled again in September 17th, 2021. There was a Kickstarter similar to this that came out 2 years ago that was funded, which was the NES Maker. So this Kickstarter was definitely inspired by the NES Maker. I think the reason why NES Maker succeeded and this one didn't is mainly because NES Maker was a lot farther along when the Kickstarter started. You were already able to make games in NES Maker, while as in Retro Game Builder, you weren't able to make games yet because it was a lot earlier in development. I really wish this one would have been funded. It would have really helped the Super Nintendo homebrew community. And I've always been a big fan of Super Nintendo graphics and Super Nintendo music, so it would have been really cool to have more homebrew in the Super Nintendo market. Overall, I gotta give this one 2.5 stars. And that's it for all the Kickstarters here. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video. If you like this video, I did a video on Nintendo 64 Kickstarters that will be just down below. And if you could leave a like or maybe consider subscribing, I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. And I hope that you all have a great day.